Want to teach your puppy to walk calmly on a leash? In part 2 of this video series, I will be covering the top pitfalls you may be coming across as you practice loose leash walking. Now, if you want the basics, be sure to check out part 1 of the loose leash walking series where I cover all of the step-by-step instructions to get started. For the best dog training and product tips, be sure to hit subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when I put out a new video every Wednesday. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lisa. I've dog sat and trained hundreds and hundreds of dogs and puppies, and I love sharing my advice with all of you. All right, so this is part 2 of the loose leash walking series, but let me just quickly recap part 1 of the loose leash walking series. We covered how to click and reward our puppies when there is slack on the leash. We spoke about number 1, getting out excess energy before training. Number 2, training in a familiar environment, and then slowly leveling out to those more challenging, more distracting environments. Number 3, rewarding with a treat when your dog or puppy is behind you. And number 4, if your dog pulls, do not move forward. You can either completely stop, you can stop and then turn around, or you can stop and reset with a sit. All right, so in this video, I am going to cover common pitfalls like number 1, your dog just not wanting to walk in general, not wanting to move forward. Number 2, your dog just biting the leash out of excitement. And 3, what to do if you, the human, just are getting really impatient and don't have time to treat every single walk as a training session. Sometimes you just have to let your dog out to potty before work, and you don't have time to sit around, turn around, reset, and do all of that. I got you covered, don't worry. At the end of this video, I will share with you my favorite training tool that I use for when I don't have time to treat a walk like a training session. All right, so let's get started. First, let's talk about your dog just not wanting to walk in general. If your dog doesn't want to walk, there are a few things happening. Number 1, your dog is not really familiar with the leash and the leash is kind of scary to them. Number 2, your dog is uncomfortable. It might be too cold outside. Maybe it's even too hot outside depending on the weather, and they just don't really want to be outside. Number 3, your dog doesn't want to follow you and he or she doesn't find following you to be rewarding. All right, so let's cover how to fix the first one, your dog being scared of the leash. We just have to get yummy treats and then associate the leash with yummy treats coming their way. So we can start with just placing the leash near them and then giving them treats. So helping them create that positive association with the leash and treats. And then from there, slowly start attaching the leash inside the house first, get them to start enjoying it there. And then from there, you can level up and start giving your dog treats for walking on leash inside the house. So starting in a familiar environment again before we start to move outside. If your dog is uncomfortable, like it's too hot or too cold, I'd like you to put yourself in the dog situation. You don't really want to walk outside when it's super, super hot, and dogs don't sweat like us, so it can be really uncomfortable for them. So when it's really, really hot, just try to keep your walk super short. Also, a good rule of thumb is you should touch the cement with your bare hands, and if you can hold your hand there for 3 or 4 seconds without it burning, then it should be okay to go. Now, if it burns, that usually means that their paws are going to burn when they're walking outside. So you might want to invest in some booties. If it's too cold, you might want to invest in a nice comfy coat. Same thing, you might also want to invest in some boots if it's snowy outside, because once again, the snow can get stuck in their paws and it can feel really cold for them. In this case, I just like to say respect how your dog is feeling and take them outside really, really quick for quick potty breaks, and then mentally stimulate them inside with a new training trick or puzzle toys or anything like that. Another great tool I really like, which is pretty affordable, is the Flirt Pull, which you can buy on Amazon. I'll link to it below, but it is basically a really large cat toy, and you can basically sit there, wave it around, and the dog will chase. Usually it's like a little stuffed squirrel or ferret at the end, and it's kind of a great way for you to be lazy and still get your dog some good exercise. So the last reason is your dog might not want to follow you. What I would say is first practice inside with no leash, and just reward your dog for being behind you, following you with some really, really tasty treats. Now, if you're outside and your dog doesn't want to follow you, what it could be is that there's just so many good smells around. Now, if they're a young puppy, usually they grow out of this. Everything is brand new to them, so they're just really, really excited to smell everything. But if they're older and they're still acting like that, you can always just take a nice seat outside on a bench, let them kind of like take in the environment, and once they get used to it, then do the training session. Moving into the next common pitfall, which is your dog just biting the leash out of excitement. It used to be one of Waffle's favorite things to do, especially when she was a puppy. The first thing you can do is just ask for an alternative behavior. For example, if your dog or puppy starts biting the leash, just ask for a sit or leave it, and then reward them when they do that behavior. Now, that being said, this requires a lot of patience. But you know what? Training is work, and I can guarantee you if you see any dog that's really, really well behaved, the owner has put in a ton of work. If you want your dog to be good, you have to put in the work and be consistent. Last but not least, let's talk about how you can walk your dog. If you're still in the training process, you're still trying to teach them not to pull on the leash, but it's early in the morning, you have to get to work, you don't have time to turn around and do all of this crazy stuff. You just have to take them on their walk really quickly before you get to your day job. To reiterate, you will still have to spend 15 minutes a day training loose leash walking. There's no way around it. You have to put in the work. This tool is literally just for when you have to get to work or you have to do something and you have to get in their walk. So the training tool that I recommend is called the Easy Walk Harness or the Freedom Harness. Those are two brands, but basically any harness that clips in the front of their chest. What this harness does is every time your dog pulls, it actually turns them around to face you. So every time they pull, they're not allowed to move forward. All it does is turns them around gently, and then so they're facing you. One word of warning though, you might want to have a backup plan for your harness. I would take 2 leashes, clip one on the harness, and then also clip one on their regular collar, because puppies are sometimes Houdinis and they can slip out of them. All right, so that's it for today, everyone. If you found this video helpful, type helpful in the comments below. I've also included my good dog training blueprint, and I'll include a link to it below. It's basically a nice little table with all of the common behavior issues and all of my favorite training tools, and you can get through it in probably 5 or 10 minutes and learn solutions to all of your common behavior problems. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, hit like, hit the subscribe button, and share with all of your dog friends who might find this helpful. And as always, I will see you next Wednesday.